Now you see.
Mel, you a Karen, and you need to stop. You need to get better.
Do you want my Karenism that you keep saying I have to go deal with that upstairs? Because I will.
Can't put a hit out on them.
I wouldn't. I would do it myself, just in case anything ever happens to them. It wasn't me, okay?
Did Melyssa Ford's threatening statements get her kicked off the Joe Budden podcast? Well, that seems to be one of the other theories being thrown around in the rumor sphere of the Joe Budden universe. For those of you that don't know, Melyssa Ford disappeared from the JBP around August of 2025, towards the back end of the month, and many are wondering why she hasn't come back. Well, there was a lawsuit stemming from when Joe Budden would sleepwalk naked in his apartment complex. And this whole thing is a testament to how actions have consequences, because this happened around the end of 2024, and now it persists to this day. So let's break down the clips that would indicate that Melyssa Ford finds herself in some serious hot water. First, there was episode 768 of the Joe Budden podcast, which took place in October 18th of 2024. Here, Melyssa Ford threatens to go talk to the B upstairs.
All were laughing at me, and now you see.
Mel, you a Karen, and you need to stop. You need to get better.
Do you want my Karenism that you keep saying I have to go deal with that upstairs? Because I will.
And that language would find its way into a court document. So maybe she overstepped, but also she was just talking on a podcast. Then in December of 2024, on episode 782, Melyssa Ford would talk about killing the neighbor.
My upstairs neighbors.
Oh, shit.
Can't put a hit out on them.
I wouldn't. I would do it myself. Okay, look, just in case anything ever happens to them, it wasn't me, okay?
And it's unclear if she was talking about killing her own neighbor, but it also seemed like a figurative statement. I don't think anybody thinks Melyssa Ford was actually going to hire somebody or try to get them taken out for being a disturbance to her lifestyle, whether it be at Joe Budden's complex or her own. Now, Joe was very frustrated around this time.
All right, let them neighbors keep banging up there. I don't know if they hear it in the broadcast.
I think him and the neighbor above him were just getting into a lot of friction, and there were some serious accusations made by both parties with, it seeming like Joe was coming off like some disrespectful neighbor, and then Joe feeling like, oh, these neighbors are being racist, and he would say that on air. Now, there's another big part of this whole lawsuit that was interesting, because Joe would talk about the legal proceedings that he had to go through as a result of this case in an episode in January of 2025.
So she was like, by preponderance of the evidence, no, I don't find that is stalking.
Now, to be honest, I had to hit the lipstick alley just to get some info, because they really be on it. And one user noted something funny about Joe Budden's explanation, recounting that the story seemed off, highlighting that it was unlikely that what Joe went to was an actual municipal court, and instead some type of co-op real estate meeting. They even suggest that Joe's explanation was merely a performance. Now, we have to highlight that this person who commented is likely a Joe Budden hater, so we can't really act like there's some unbiased calling of the cards, but they did provide receipts of the episodes and timestamps, so I just had to note that. We also can look how Mark Lamont Hill seemed skeptical while Joe Budden was talking with this comment here.
All right, so we go to court.
This is the fastest trial in history, too. Like,
It wasn't fast to me.
So even Mark Lamont saying, yo, this was the fastest trial ever, to me indicates that, Mark was like, oh, so you mean to tell me you did all this in a mere amount of time? Like, you didn't even have to talk too much. It got resolved this quickly. But like I said, I don't know. Could it have been that the story Joe was talking about was simply a condo co-op meeting that isn't really legal? Or maybe he did have to go to trial. We'll have to see how that plays out. But what we do know is that the lawsuit was in full swing, and now it's a civil lawsuit. And we all know civil lawsuits can be tied to monetary outcomes. And we're going to have to see how this plays out, because this seems to be a game of chicken. Who's going to be the first one to tap out? It Seems like ego is involved now, and there's no going back. As to whether this is the reason that Melyssa Ford is gone, I don't think so. I don't think that they let Melyssa Ford go just so she wouldn't be served papers, because Melyssa Ford's presence in this honestly could get explained away as, yo, she was part of a podcast and there's no type of indication that she was aiming to be violent towards the neighbors. I believe she was just thrown in because why not throw somebody in who made those type of statements? I believe what really happened with Melyssa Ford is she went through a situation with Flip and she gave Joe an ultimatum and said, I don't really want to be on the show with Flip anymore. And Joe chose not to have her back or acquiesce to her demands, and she didn't return. Now, another scenario that I think is stronger than the lawsuit scenario is perhaps there was a renegotiation where Joe let her know that, hey, Melyssa Ford, some of the things you've been doing aren't things I'm going to be cool with. There's going to be some more incentive-based parts of your deal, because in 2025, Melyssa Ford was having a tough time on air. She would go long moments of not speaking. She seemed disengaged and just didn't get along with anybody. So I can see Joe saying, yo, we're going to want you here once a week because Mona's coming the other day. I really don't see a scenario where Mona and Melyssa Ford were going to be on the show together. So I think her contract being shrunken, her role being marginalized, may have been the catalyst for her exit from the show. And I know a lot of folks are saying, yo, they dealing with this in a really grown-up way. I really think everybody's really showing their adult side. I'm like, wait a second. Y'all really think that this is how it's going to play out? I can almost guarantee that this is going to get real messy real soon, and it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out. And I think that Joe Budden and Melyssa Ford are in bad shape as far as their dynamic. Why would Melyssa Ford unfollow Joe Budden if everything's amicable? Why would Joe Budden remove her from the show intro and not address it? So there's a lot going on. And man, that $20 million declaration, boy, did it unleash a lot of drama for the Joe Budden podcast. I mean, you got the lawsuit that may be tied to people thinking, yo, Joe got money, let's take it. Then you got members of the cast talking about you need to feed the wolves. Flip said that on an episode. And Flip and Joe don't even get along like that now. I mean, I think they get along, but the business is always an issue. Plus, who knows what other things may be lurking in the darkness. This is why sometimes it's best not to name your company after yourself. I think Joe Budden probably should change his company's name to something else because it's tied to his actions. At least if it was called something like Jersey Media, you could be like, oh, but that's the company, the board is going to figure it out. And secretly, Joe Budden runs it the whole time. But now that his network is named after him, whatever he does, it tinges everything else. But we're going to have to see where this goes. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Melyssa Ford is gone because of this lawsuit? Or do you believe the other theories that are out there? When I was doing the research for this video, I was surprised at how many tea leaves there are to what actually happened in real life. Oftentimes, many people are like, yo, Nanny, this is just entertainment. You taking it too serious. This is just a pod. But these are things going down in courts. Joe had literally had to leave his condo, co-op, whatever, and stay in a hotel. So it's only content over everything to a certain extent. Sometimes this is real. Sometimes the trauma from the show ends up in real life and the lines are blurred. And that's where this channel exists, in the blurred lines. With that said, follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. Follow me on Patreon, The Stop. Just a heads up, there's a lot of spaces I'm doing on Twitter. So if you're interested in more community building and more discussions about the show, join me there for the live. And then you could catch the playbacks on the Patreon. That's where all my spaces live. Plus, I have a podcast episode dropping real soon. Make sure you check in with the Spotify feed. I just posted like 7 episodes on there over the last month and a half. So there's a lot of content coming and you need to stay tapped in. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.